Well, good evening, friends. It is that time again. It is time for late night coffee talk. I have got my coffee, and you guys are going to supply the questions, and we'll have a good evening. So, hmm, I slid in here right under the wire. You might have noticed that we're about a minute late tonight. That's on me. I'm busy. I got a thing that I'm working on that anyone who's seen it will attest. It is a miracle of modern science, no doubt about it. It's going to be super useful for the TNM, no doubt about that. All right, so before I get into all of my apologies for not being here last week, let me go ahead and start. Welcome to Late Night Coffee Talk. I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and this is that time that generally once a week on Thursdays, I take a break from what I'm working on toward independence. I come in here, I fire this thing up, and we have a conversation. You get to ask me questions, I'll give you answers, and I get a chance to talk about things that are on my mind on occasion when we're not jammed up with questions, mind you. So, and that's good. Tonight's going to be one of those nights. You guys have a lot on your mind. You sent in a lot of questions, and we're going to talk about, for those of you who have not yet, going to talk about how you can do that right now. In fact, all you got to do is, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and drop your question in the chat. Super chats are active and very much appreciated. And while you're there, why not like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, do all the cool things that you know to do on YouTube. Additionally, we are on Rumble tonight, and all you got to do is drop your question over there in the chat on Rumble. And, look, give us a follow, give us a like over there as well. If you are watching us on X, a lot of you guys are switching from X back over to YouTube. It's been an interesting trend to watch. But if you're watching over there, all you got to do is drop your question in the chat and be sure to share this, like it, do all those kind of cool X things. And if you're watching on Facebook, you know what you got to do. Drop your question in the comments on this video and be sure to like and comment and share while you're there as well, so we can get maximum reach. A lot of people don't realize this, right? They just they watch this on whatever platform they watch it on and go, well, you know what, how come there's only, how come there's not a bunch of people on here? Well, it's because we're across every platform you can imagine. Like, I just listed off the ones tonight where you can actually pose a question, right? Not everywhere we are live streaming. So, when it's fragmented like that, you got to try to hit everybody you can, give everybody an opportunity to watch and or participate. Also, look, if none of those things are your cup of tea, then easy peasy, lemon squeezy. If you will watch the bottom of your screen, you will see an email address scroll by here very shortly where you can email your questions. It was also in the email that went out today. But you can send it to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. That's coffeetalk, all one word, at thetnm.org. And, it'll be down here on the screen somewhere. Like really soon, I think. Anyway, all right. Well, look, we've got a lot. Now, let me get over to the obligatory apologies. This was last week was another one of those situations where I just could not be here for Coffee Talk. And I thought, maybe I'll try to make it up on Friday. But look, nobody wants to see or hear from me on a Friday night. So, we're just going to, if we miss, we're just going to catch up the next week, right? Just gives us a lot more to talk about. So my apologies for that. It just scheduling just did not work out. But look, in the meantime, there's been all kind of wild things, right? Texas voters went to the polls and did what they normally do on Tuesdays, which is vote yes on pretty much every constitutional amendment. And some people still question the wisdom of us wanting to put the TEXIT referendum question on the constitutional amendment ballot. Not as a constitutional amendment, but, so it can be revenue neutral. Won't cost anything because they always have them. Every 2 years you have one because the legislature's forevermore passing constitutional amendments. But, the likelihood when a constitutional amendment goes on the ballot, the likelihood of it getting passed is hovering about as close to 100% as you can get. I mean, that's always good money. And the unfortunate part about that is that even bad ones seem to snake through because, frankly, most people don't pay attention. They go vote because they believe it is their civic duty to do so. They think, all I need to know about this particular thing is written on the ballot. And they read it and they think, okay, this actually sounds pretty good. Not realizing all of the nuance that goes behind the scenes or all the rest of the wording. I think it would be hilarious if the government was forced to put the full language that they intended to use on the ballot itself. That you might see some different outcomes if that were the case. And look, I haven't checked lately, but I had heard that there had been some discussion about a lawsuit about improper ballot wording. So it's why it's so stinking important. Why did people say all the time, look, why are you guys so particular about the ballot question for the referendum? It should say this or it should say that. And it's like, no, you don't get to do that, right? We've seen plenty of independence referendums out there. We got a big body of study on the TNM library, library.tnm.me. There's actually an academic research. There was a paper that was submitted that deals specifically with the wording of referendum questions on the issue of self-determination. And so I'll save you the dry read because I've read it. I keep it pretty handy all the time. But bottom line is that how the question is worded, particularly on an independence question, matters a lot. This is why you see polling outlets getting wildly different results on independence support. It's because invariably they're asking the wrong question. They're wording it or phrasing it incorrectly as to gauge true sentiment. So, it's these questions, it really can inform this understanding that we have of skewed polling or what's happening with constitutional amendment elections or any of those things. It's pretty important. And any of you who sat through one of the 2 TEXIT blueprint seminars, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what I say is correct because I actually covered that very thing in the blueprint seminar. So, excuse me. Anybody else having fun with this time change and weather change? You guys can't see it, but I have a view in there of Kara, and she was giving it a big thumbs down. She's not a big fan of the time change. Excuse me. All right, let's get down to it. If I don't get on your questions now, I'm never going to get to them. Wow. Before we even jump off into that, let's do this. Chris Powell, thank you so much for your $49 super chat. It is much appreciated. He says, good evening, Daniel. I'm sure everybody is itching to now talk about what happened and why the Republican Party chair resigned with some other. There is no one day and someday during the week. I am so confused at this point. The time is now. Let's go win together. God bless Texas. Yes, I can get behind that last part of that, but I'm not sure. The Republican Party chair didn't resign. Abraham George is still the chair. I get it. I think you're talking about the resignation of Jen Hall, the executive director, and one of the other staffers there. And I am, until I find out more, I'm reluctant to comment on it. I mean, it's oddly, it's not a whole lot of our business. It's internal Republican Party business. But I think I suspect that we'll get over as the days go by. We'll get more and more of the story. So I think that's what you're talking about. I don't know, but I must say that it was quite an interesting resignation letter. So we'll leave it at that. But thank you so much for your super chat, Chris. All right. Let's see here. I was on the wrong screen. Oh, this is what happens. I'm absent for a week and suddenly I just lose everything. Okay. There we go. Ron Raffoon, thank you so much. Gifted 5 Texas Nationalist Movement channel memberships. So those of you who are now the lucky recipients of those, please hop into the chat and give Ron a big thanks. You know, the way that this works, you know, we have channel memberships, which we have some additional content that's for members only. Remember, the aforementioned TEXIT blueprint, all the videos for that are right there exclusively for members of our YouTube channel. And, you know, it seems like on a regular basis, Ron is gifting channel memberships to people. So, interestingly enough, I found out that the channel memberships, you can only gift them during a live stream, and they are only gifted to people that are on the live stream. So, if you were one of the lucky recipients, give Ron a big thank you, and I thank you, sir. All right, let's get down here. Okay, this is from Alec. He says, President Miller, that's very formal of you. I emailed with details, but I wanted you to know, if you did not, that you're invited to my future State Guard graduation. P.S. Victory to Texas. I left the National Guard and I went state. Good for you. I think the State Guard is going to be the absolute, you know, I think for us, that is going to have to be the backbone of a future Texas military. I think we have to start there. That's not the end all be all. It's not the most ideal scenario. But look, I've encouraged people that have decided that they want to go enlist, they want to go serve in the military. I have encouraged them to go check out the Texas State Guard, because ultimately for us, that's going to be where we're going to try to make sure that Texas shoves all of its chips when it comes to building a military. That's where it's got to be. You can't build the foundation of your nation's military on a military branch or branches that have been under or potentially under federal service. It's just not prudent to do so. So congratulations to you. I will look and see if we've got that in the email. So thank you for the invitation, Alec. I really do appreciate it. All right. Let's go to the email. I've been very chat heavy so far. Oh, holy night. Wow, you guys have been rather prolific with your questions. Man, I got to get down to the actual questions. I mean, prolific is like an understatement. There is a ton of these, and I don't mean just like for the last 2 weeks. I mean, you guys got busy today. All right, let's see if we can get to one of these. All right, this one's from John. John says, I was surprised to see that every single one of the 17 proposed constitutional amendments on Tuesday's ballot passed. While personally disappointed by the passage of a few, it certainly boosted my hopes for a TEXIT referendum. It seems as if anything making it to the ballot will be passed by Texas voters. Perhaps a too simplistic view, and curious as to your thoughts. I actually gave you my thoughts a moment ago. It's just, look, statistically speaking, if a constitutional amendment makes it, if anything makes it on the constitutional amendment ballot, the odds are going to be that it passes. I mean, and there have only been a handful that have been shot down over the years. But I don't know what the cause of that is, other than perhaps what I talked about a moment ago, which is people feel like they want to go vote because they're doing their civic duty. They have very limited description of what the amendment does on the ballot, and at first glance sounds pretty good. With most people not understanding everything that goes along with it. You know, a lot of people really, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would venture a guess and feel pretty good about it, that if you went out and asked people, hey, that constitutional amendment that you voted for, you know, it said XYZ, is that what goes in the Constitution? And I think a lot of people would say, yes, that's exactly what goes in the Constitution, because they don't know any better. So, you know, it's just another mechanism that can effectively hoodwink the voting public here in Texas. And look, these legislators do it all the time. when we were treated, what was it, last session before, to their big victory lap about banning a state income tax via the constitutional amendment, it's like, wait a minute, you guys already did that, right? But it looked good on mailers because people don't pay attention to the fact that a state income tax was already prohibited here, right? It's just so now we got two prohibitions. That's really nice, but honestly, we could have been doing other things. So this is just kind of how they work. But I'm honestly, John, it does not shock me, not in the least. So, all right, I'm working my way backward here to some of the questions that we missed last week. Okay, man. There we go. Much better. Okay, here we go. This is from James Matlock. Okay, James Matlock is a Texas First Pledge signer for Railroad Commission. He sends this in. He says, Daniel, I'm about 1,000 signatures short on the petition and thought I would reach out to see if you could help. That's a petition in lieu of a filing fee, right? So that's what he's talking about. But, there's not a lot. I could sign the petition, I think, right? I could do that. But you're a Texas First Pledge signer. So you've asked your question, made your statement, and it will get out to who it needs to get out to. But guys, look him up, James Matlock, a Texas First Pledge signer, right? And if you don't know about the Texas First Pledge, my words, where have you been, right? The Texas First Pledge is that pledge from people that are running for office and those that have won and those that may run again, that they will put the interest of Texas and Texans first. And if it's in their power, they will support a referendum on independence. It doesn't say that they support TEXIT, but it says they, at a minimum, support your right to vote on it and will abide by the decision of that vote. So James Matlock is one of those signers, so be sure to go check him out. You can go look at all the Texas First Pledge signers at taketexasback.com, right? That's where they're all listed, so you're going to want to check those out. Okay, this one is from David. Could you take a few minutes to explain to people the importance of connections, messages, and notifications on TNM Social? I send out many connection requests and messages that are never returned. No jokes about my personality, please. You know me too well, because you knew there was going to be a joke in there somewhere. Like, wow, I mean, I'm not going to make the joke. I'm just not even going to do it because you asked me not to, but I'm going to tell you it is quite tempting. All right. So look, if you don't know what David's talking about, let me give you a clue, right? I'm going to just throw this on the screen. TNM Social, right? We've had people complain. I mean, we've done our share of complaining about big tech censorship, but the other thing is we also did something about it. We were tired of not being able to connect with you, right? To get blocked out by the people that are over there, the algorithms that are censoring emails and throwing them in the spam folders. I mean, look, not a day goes by here that we don't hear from somebody absolutely upset that they've gotten, I signed up for you guys and I never got anything from you and blah, blah, blah. And we tell them, check your spam folder. And they go look, and lo and behold, there's 18 months worth of messages that they never, ever saw. We go post on all of the major social media outlets, right? Some of the people where we're broadcasting this here, Facebook and X, we go post on those guys. And we hear all the time, you never show up in my feed. The algorithm is not. So, instead of just complaining about it, we decided to do something about it. And that was why we launched TNM Social. But it's not just so that we can communicate with Texas independent supporters. It's so that you can communicate with each other. Many of you don't realize this, but for a very long time, as part of the intake, all new members were given a new member survey. And we asked them over and over, why are you joining the TNM? Why are you doing it? What is your purpose? What do you hope to get out of it? And when you analyze all that data, it really boiled down to two things. Like virtually everyone boiled down to two things. Number one, is they wanted more information, more insight, more connection to the movement to make Texas an independent nation, right? It's one of the reasons we focus on a ton of material, lots of content, resources, education. But the other thing is they wanted to communicate, they wanted to connect with like-minded people. They wanted to be part of a community centered around the idea that Texas is and should forever be an independent, self-governing nation state. They wanted to connect more. And I say they, you, if you're one of those people, that's probably why you're here. Honestly, you're not here week after week to hear me answer questions over and over. You're having your conversations in the chat. You're talking to people. That's it, right? So it's building that community. Well, T&M Social checked all the boxes for us, right? T&M Social was something that we did at great expense. It is not cheap was not cheap for us to get, build, or maintain. But we did it for you. So you would have a place where you could meet one another, connect with one another, and that on the occasion we had the necessity to get information to you, there was one place that was absolutely assured that no one would stand between us and you, and vice versa, right? And so that's why T&M Social exists. And so if you want, if that's something that interests you, right? If you want more connection, more communication, not just with the organization officially, but with one another, then why do you not spend time on T&M Social, right? Why are you not over there connecting with one another? And I think that's part of what David's talking about. You know, David's like, look, I'm connecting with people over there right now, and I'm not hearing back from them and things of that nature. Well, a lot of that also is because some of you are not doing this thing. It's one thing to be on T&M Social. It's another to carry it in the palm of your hand, right? And you know, that's not only is it just some website, this is not some forum, this is not Reddit or any of that other stuff. I mean, it's a full-blown social network, and along with that is the T&M mobile app. And so I know that when I got a message from Jerry earlier, and boom, it fired off an alert, and I messaged back and forth with people. They message back and forth with me, and we go post information, and we comment on one another. We encourage one another. We share information with one another. That's what we do. And, you know, if you're just tethered to your computer, you're getting part of the story, and you're relying on the fact that you're going to remember on a regular basis to go there and log in, right? So that's why I downloaded the app. That's why I carry it in the palm of my hand, and that's why I continue to do so. And so I would encourage all of you right now, if you are already on T&M Social, go over there and post. Like go make a post here. And if you're not on T&M Social, then what you should do is you should go to tnm.social, and you should go create an account. You can actually create an account with your other social media accounts and log in with that. But go create your account and go get stuck in. You know, if you want community, if you want this sort of camaraderie, then you got to go get stuck in, right? This is a two-way street. And so everybody be sure to go over there and just post a message and tell David, say, David, I'm here, connect with me. But look, aside from T&M Social, this is the other reason that we are so aggressively trying to organize locally in the counties, right? Because it's one thing to be an online movement. It's another thing to be a real movement in your communities, right? And so if you're not jammed up on that part of it yet, then you definitely need to do that. But look, use the digital as a stepping stone. Use it to connect with other people. Look, you go in there, you pop your address in. First thing it's going to do is it's going to put you in a group with other people in your county, other people in your House district, and other people in your Senate district. And the other thing is, when you pop your interests on there, it's going to put you in groups with other people that share that same interest. Are you a gun enthusiast? Are you a homeschooler? Are you in ag and farming? Are you in ranching? Are you a pastor? I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? And so it's going to group you with people that are like-minded. It doesn't get any more like-minded. I mean, there's one for musicians. There's one for content creators. there's one for propeller head technical people like me. I mean, this is what it's for. So go use it, right? David, I don't know if that's what you wanted me to do, but that's what you got. And I did not make a joke about your personality. You're welcome. All right. Let's go over here to the chat and see what we got. For those of you just joining us, Late Night Coffee Talk, Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist Movement. Drop your questions in chat wherever you're watching this, or you can email them to coffeetalk@tnm.org. And if you are just now joining us, your tardy slip is available in the front office. All right. There we go. Well, so some of you may be asking, oh, there it is. Some of you may be asking what this is up here in the corner. What is this QR code? Those who don't want to do a super chat, right, where 30% of it goes to Google, you can pop that bad boy right there. And what it will do is it will allow you to go make a donation directly to the TNM, right, where Google's not taking 30% of it. And just so happens, I think the last 3 coffee talks in a row, maybe 4, since we started doing this, Eric Riddle, thank you very much for your donation. It is much, much, much appreciated. And of course, the problem with that is I don't get a little flashy thing I can put up there on the screen and say, "Ooh, Eric Riddle gave." But thank you, Eric. Okay. All right, here we go. William says, I asked last time what an independent Texas look like as far as government structure, military, and economy. Okay, that is a very, very, very broad question, right? That's like multiple episodes, right? But let me just see if I can encapsulate this for you. What government structure do we have right now? Well, we have a constitutional republic, and it's structured with an executive branch, bicameral legislative branch, and we technically have 2 supreme judicial branches, one that deals with criminal matters and one that deals with civil matters. Texas independence is that, right? Until we change it. And so I'm just going to give you a very important sort of doctrine, if you want to call it that. But here's what helps, I think, short circuit a lot of questions people have. You have to understand that things are as they are until those things change, right? So Texas changes its status from being a state of the union to being a self-governing independent nation. Well, what else has changed? Well, nothing until we change it, because we have the power. Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. We have the power to change it any way that we want to. Let's say we don't want 2 Supreme Courts. Maybe we want 1. We could combine them if we wanted to. But we have a functional, a structurally functional government, right? So what will it look like? Well, until we change it, it's going to look just like that. What about the military? Something that is covered quite in depth at this wonderful website. You may have heard of it. I don't assume, but it's texitnow.org. Oh, hang on, the chat's covered it. There we go. It's called texitnow.org, right? Where it has answers to the most frequently asked questions about the entire TEXIT process, dealing with constitutional issues, structural issues. I mean, all those kinds of things, right? So I would encourage you to go over there. But something we have talked at length about is what happens as far as the military goes. Something that we covered quite extensively in the TEXIT blueprint. We've written about it extensively, but it's really about understanding what the process looks like. And so, William, this is what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to head over to TNM Social, sign up, get in the TNM Academy courses that we offer for people that just kind of, you go sign on TNM Social, you have access to pretty much all of them except for leadership courses, and those are reserved for people that are leadership applicants. But It's stuff that covers the basics. Welcome to the T&M, TEXIT 101, all those sorts of things. You talk about economy, right? Well, what will the economy of an independent Texas look like? Well, we're the 8th largest economy in the world right now. There's every reason to believe that Texas, as an independent nation, would become the 5th largest economy in the world. At worst 6th, but probably 5th, the 5th largest economy in the world. And so when you say the economy, I mean, are we talking about trade? Are we talking about currency? The question is quite nebulous. But what I'm going to ask you to do is just go to texitnow.org, go read through those questions over there. Additionally, if you want to get a little bit deeper, go over on T&M Social, sign up, and get in those academy courses. And trust and believe, there's more information over there. There's enough to choke a donkey. So there would be your answers to your questions that are, this is very nebulous, very big to get around, and there's no way I can answer them specifically because they're not specific, right? But I did give you a good place to go start. So be sure to check that out, William. Thank you for your question. Okay. Let's go back over here to the emails. Man, you guys, I am really having to dig through because there's just a ton here, right? Okay, this is from Carl. Carl says, so now the first midterm elections are over. What is our next step besides still talking with and enlightening folks about TEXIT, in case others want to know but didn't ask here? Good question, Carl. Thank you for being the proxy for people who are thinking it, right? But look, I'm still processing the election results, from the other states, and all these people. So nobody likes "I told you so," but all these people talked about how United States round the corner, Donald Trump is now president, and all these cool things are going to happen, and we're not going to have to worry about X, Y, Z. We still got no Epstein files. We still got no Fort Knox audit. We still, they assured us, hey, look, the people that want to make America great again are rising up in these various states. And New York City just elected an absolute abject socialist mayor. Republicans, I think, I don't know what Trump's endorsement rate, win rate was, but somebody told me it was close enough to zero to nearly be zero. So, I think, folks, you got to start facing facts. Is some of these places, these votes are not mistakes. This is how people think, right? This is how they think. This is what they want. And so consequently, you have to ask yourself, can we continue to be in a union with people like that? Can we be in a union with people who want absolute malice and Marxist to govern them? They want to live under that sort of thing. I would suggest not, right? But that's a hard question for you. I've answered that question a long time ago. I mean, all they're doing is just, I'm not going to say they're proving me right, and I'm not going to say I told you so, but for all of those out there that were, doing the hokey pokey on this sort of thing and kind of maybe wavering, I really don't know if we need to do this. I think we can turn this thing around. I will just say this. I informed you thusly. What do we do? Okay, what's our next step? Our plan has not changed, Carl. You know this. I know you're asking for other people, but our plan hasn't changed. It's exactly what we laid out in the TEXIT blueprint. The path is still the path. It's always the path. It's always going to be the path. Again, the rate at which we proceed down that path is completely contingent upon the desire of the people to do it. Remember, all political power is inherent in the people. Not all political power is inherent in the plan, or Daniel Miller, or the TNM, or Carl, or anybody else. All political power is inherent in the people. What's the biggest stumbling block to making this happen, to having this done already? The people are not ready for it yet. Or maybe they are. Maybe they just don't know how to do it, which gets me to the real situation, right? The real situation, which is we know that our people are out there. They're people that are just like you and I that believe that Texas would be better off as an independent nation. The problem is that they have not been connected with a movement that can make it happen. They don't know that there is a way to do it. I'm not going to go into all this stuff about how we can't communicate with people, even though we try, right? That's why we have to have volunteers in the field connecting with voters to let them know that we exist and to connect them with the organization. Look, we could go have a million conversations, but this is not a hot air balloon, right? This is a people movement. It has to be. All political power is inherent in the people. Not all political power is inherent in the paragraphs that you can vomit on everybody you see. It's great to have conversations, but at the end of the day, if you are not moving and motivating them to action and connecting them with the movement to make it happen, then you're just having conversations. And I can tell you, look, there's a lot of things that you can have conversations about that are far easier than Texas independence. You want some good conversations? Go find your local cafe where the old guys congregate over coffee, and you can chew the fat all day long. All day long. Won't be any argument, no debate. It's just, just shooting the breeze. That's cool. Does that get us independence? Not really. It could, but how long do you have, right? How long do you have? Not saying don't have those conversations, but if those conversations do not end in some action, excellent. If you believe like this, then this is what I need you to do. I need you to register your support. Here's the QR code. Here's my form. Sign it. Here's this. What is the action? Hey, can I get your number? Would love to talk to you about this more later, right? I mean, I'm not going to go into all the techniques tonight and all the things that you need to do, but suffice it to say, we continue on. It's the same plan. It is exactly the same plan, Carl. Nothing has changed other than we have been vindicated yet again. We've been vindicated. So just ammo for us. It's ammo for us to go out there and go, hey, you see what happened up there in New York? Well, do you want that here? Because we're always just one election cycle away from this place going into full-blown Marxist, Maoist tyranny. As long as we're tethered to the federal government, that is. All right. Let's get back over here to the chat. Okay. Mark wants to know. That is a great picture. It's in the mountains, huh? What would it take for a TEXIT referendum to get on the ballot? Very good question. So here's the bottom line. For a TEXIT referendum that would be binding and actionable on the ballot, we need legislation to make it happen, right? This is why, not this past session, 2 sessions before, the Texas Independence Referendum Act was introduced that would effectively give Texans a vote on independence. It is such a great thing, to be able to have those 2 notches on the belt, that the bill that they said would never get filed got filed. And it'll get filed again. This last session was not conducive to that sort of thing. We had more people in the House than ever, but it was not conducive to any sort of action on that piece of legislation. But next session, we'll get it filed again. And, and I think the question becomes at that point, if we get it filed again, are we going to be ready for it? I would have said, had it been filed this last session, we would not have been ready, because if that thing had sailed through like crap through a goose, we don't have the organizational capacity in the field to deal with what would come next, because it's not just getting the vote, it's winning the vote and then securing the independence, right? I mean, this is the plan. And so we have to continue to build capacity. So the question, I think, between now and the next legislative session is, are you going to be part of the capacity building? Are you going to be part of organizing in the field? Are you going to be a volunteer for your local area. You're going to help us organize your county. Or you're going to go out and connect with voters. That is the emphasis for us right now. And what would it take? It's as simple as that. File the bill, pass the bill, we get the vote. Boom, shakalaka, it's done. So thank you for that question, Mark. I love this. Third World Video says, interesting. Did not expect this channel in 2025. Well, we've been around longer than 2025. Does taxes, that misspelling feels very truthful, right? Have an ironclad right to secession? Good question. I think it really depends on how you define the word secession. And people are going to, don't send me hate mail. I don't want to hear it, people. Yes, I still come from the school of thought that words have meaning and words matter. And as I said in the TEXIT book, that one there, right? As it says on the website, I don't believe, and I'll tell you, I think academics, particularly those that are dealing with issues of self-determination, international law, are resolving in on this as well, which is secession is a lazy word to try to describe a bunch of very different processes. And let me just put it to you this way. Would anybody have you seen anyone in the news or, academia or even in popular culture refer to Brexit as secession? Well, the answer is probably no. You could go Google UK secession, British secession. Nobody called it that. What do they call it? They called it Brexit. It was Britain exiting from the European Union. Okay, so what makes that functionally distinguishable from Texas withdrawing from the Union? And the answer is nothing. Nothing is really different. You have the European Union as a collection of states. The United States is a collection of states. The UK voted to withdraw. Texas wants to vote to withdraw. Those are functionally the same things. And if that's the case, if what the UK did is not secession, then neither is what Texas is doing secession. And what you're finding out is really it's an inadequate word. It's one that, when you understand the concept of the nation state is really fairly new in human history, understand that it's taking some time to come to grips with the terminology that's being used. So I'm going to just pivot this a little bit and talk about the ironclad right to self-determination, because that's ultimately what we're talking about here. And what you're going to find is that if there were no ironclad right of self-determination, then the United States wouldn't exist. I mean, 140 other countries around the world right now wouldn't exist if there were not a recognized right of self-determination. Okay, so maybe your question is really one bordering on legal, and you get down to the ironclad part. Well, nothing is ironclad, right? Not a thing. There is nothing on this earth that is ironclad, and especially when it comes to the law. But at the end of the day, if you recognize the right that is recognized in Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution, that says that all political powers inherent in the people and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit, that the people have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. A very eloquent expression of the right of self-determination. And if you believe that, then it really doesn't matter what a piece of paper says or what any group of men, any man, any system. At the end of the day, it is ultimately a decision for the people. That is the ultimate right of self-government and the right of self-determination. So it's as ironclad as the people make it. I did not expect to get all philosophical, but thank you for that question. Okay, let's do this. I got to get over here. Oh, I'm So far behind. So, very interesting question from Jesse. Jesse says, since the Texas Constitution has been amended so only U.S. citizens may vote in Texas elections, what happens after TEXIT? Will other parts of the Constitution have to be amended? So, I'm going to take this as a two-parter. Lucky for you, normally it's limit one per customer without a coupon. Okay. But that being said, it does make it interesting. The first part of your question about U.S. citizens only being able to vote. It's interesting. Still, Texas still doesn't require photo ID, which seems kind of ridiculous. But you could tell this is a bit of puffery from the legislature. Look what we did. We made it so only U.S. citizens could vote in Texas elections. And it's like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Why do we need a constitutional amendment for that? Yet again, performative politics. But that being said, it does beg an interesting question. And I think something that most people don't understand is that Texas, let's go through the process. When Texas votes to withdraw from the Union, Texas becomes its own sovereign entity, right? It's a process. It's not an act, right? But what's interesting about the people that live in Texas is that by virtue of Texas getting its independent status, the people themselves actually are still considered U.S. citizens by the federal government. Because you got to remember, that designation doesn't come from us. That designation comes under federal law and the Constitution and all that. And so essentially what you wind up with is a situation where Texas becomes a self-governing independent nation and everybody in it still under federal law has U.S. citizenship. Now, federal law is very clear on what the process is to shuck yourself of the federal citizenship, right? They've got this whole expatriation process you can go through, but they're very clear. Also, what is clear is how utterly difficult, near impossible it is for them to strip a single person of their citizenship once they have it. Okay, so the issue here is not on our side. Whatever laws we make, if we accept dual citizenship, that's fine. If we don't, that's fine. It doesn't matter to us. Any kind of difficulty is on the federal side. Now, there are some things that go along with that. We actually talk about those several places, whether it's on texitnow.org, whether it's on, I think there's some articles on the news site, the Texan Partisan. I mean, we've talked about this one extensively, right? But there is this process after the referendum and until we are fully independent. One of those stages, we go, there's constitutional issues, statutory issues, international covenants, treaties, and agreements, and finally negotiated issues. Part of the negotiation process will be the status of Texas citizens that are living in the United States but not in Texas, and United States citizens that are living in Texas. That will be naturally a part of the negotiation process, something that will have to be hammered out. But at the end of the day, if there is no agreement, then it doesn't matter to us because, the Texas can do with it whatever they want to. If they want to accept dual citizenship, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. It ultimately becomes our choice as to how to deal with that. Again, all flaming hoops that have to be jumped through are on the federal side. Okay. And then to your other question, will other parts of the Constitution have to be amended? Yeah, there are some, and we lay those out pretty well. Some of them are super minor, right? Like changing the name of the office, the chief executive from governor to president, or lieutenant governor. Very simple things like amending the Constitution to eliminate all references to the state of Texas and change them to Republic of Texas. There's things like that. Then there's some larger things that we have to consider, right? Constitutional changes. For example, as it stands right now, by virtue of our membership in the Union and the fact that the Constitution we live under here in Texas came well after our reintroduction after the war between the states, the fact of the matter is that by virtue of our membership, we have given all those things to the federal government, shucked off all those responsibilities and powers that are covered under the U.S. Constitution. For example, foreign affairs, right? What you would think of as the Secretary of State on the United States side. We have a Secretary of State here, but they don't do any of that kind of stuff because being a member of the United States means you have a common foreign policy. That's the way it is. That's the way the document's written. So we have to amend our Constitution to essentially line out what that power looks like and what that office looks like. Are we going to give it to the Secretary of State? Are we going to have a Minister of Foreign Affairs? I mean, what is that going to look like? So we're definitely going to have to do some things like that. But the number of changes that are going to be that absolutely have to be made to our Constitution are very, very, very small. Not to say that we can't do some different things in that process, and not saying that we won't go back and make changes or amendments later. But the fact of the matter is that to get us from where we are to right at where a nation state needs to be, that gap is very, very small. So thank you for that question, Jesse. All right, let me get over here and see. Oh, man, there's a lot tonight. Okay. This is what happens. This is what happens when I skip a week. I'm going to try to rapid fire these, see how many I can get through. This is from Michael in Tyler. Hey, Michael in Tyler. Good evening. I've missed a number of shows, and I apologize. The following have already been answered. There seems to be many question marks on here. Okay, so just so you know, I'm not going to get to all these. Do you know if any other states or portions of states thereof are closing in on an actual exit before us? Yeah, well, before us, no. I still think we're in the lead. Although I got to tell you, California is making some strides, but I think we're still ahead by a good bit. But there are other movements in other states, and they're all functioning and doing quite well. Once the first state leaves and sets precedent, will that make it easier for others to follow? I believe so. I believe so. Look, people have just been waiting on us. I mean, that's kind of where it is. When Texas goes out, it's going to be like 20 some odd other states are going to probably have referendums right on the heels of ours. It will be a full year after our referendum of other states going and doing the same thing. Okay, if we TEXIT, will we be on the hook for a percentage of the federal debt? Oh, see, you put national debt, but I just read it federal debt. I've trained my brain to be that way. Percentage of the national debt that the feds incurred. Actually, no, we will not be on the hook for it. We can opt to pay a portion, or we cannot, but we are under no legal obligation whatsoever to accept any of that debt, because that debt was incurred by an entity called the United States federal government, right? The USA Incorporated, whatever you want to call them. That debt was accumulated by them, and we are no longer a part of it. Then we're not obligated to do so. There are some circumstances where we may want to choose, but given how much Texas has overpaid into the federal system decade after decade after decade, I see it as a wash. There's no way that they want to try to negotiate that out, because if you pay a percentage, you get the stuff that came along with it. So sure, if our percentage is, whether it's a per capita basis, percentage GDP, whatever it is, whatever that's cool. That's awesome. We have no problem paying it. Now we want that percentage of the military equipment, that percentage of the federal buildings, that percentage of the gold that's in Fort Knox. That's just the way it works. If you're going to make us buy our way out, then we get all the crap that goes along with it. Okay. But we're not on the hook for it. Also, how will traveling from Texas to, let's say, Oklahoma and back again look like? Passports, visas, border walls with any points of entry. You definitely need to go to texitnow.org and look that up. I wrote about that very thing in that book right there. And if you don't want to buy the book, because I'm not here to sell books, the very same answer is on texitnow.org for free. So go over there and get that done. Mike, thank you very much. Hope to see you at a meeting when I'm there next time. Okay, Callan asks, when Texas becomes Social Security question, I'm going to direct you to texitnow.org because I do not have time to answer the TEXIT question. But Callan, thank you for writing in from Abilene. Very, very nice. But your question about Social Security, Medicare, VA, all answered on texitnow.org. Those are the most hit articles on that site, coincidentally. And the answers are quite thorough. So you're going to want to check that out. Texitnow.org. Okay. This is from Chris. Well, Daniel, it's day 37 of the government shutdown, and there are rumblings of this shutting down some commercial flights. What shutdown item do you think will either break the politicians' backs or start riots in the streets? I think it's the impending SNAP and EBT cutoffs. If I had to guess, if they don't address that, you're going to start seeing escalating violence. And I mean, I'm not wishing that on anybody. I'm just you asked me to predict. I'm predicting. So don't anybody out there get any ideas and I'm trying to incite something. I'm just making a prediction, right? Based off of Chris's question. What is the straw that is going to break the camel's back? That is a great question. But I can tell you that, when you have people on social media boasting that they're just going to run into stores and just start taking stuff, man, I'm going to tell you, I know that there are people out there that are hurting, right? That they are truly in poverty. They are on hard times. But I also know that there are a lot of people out there that have absolutely no business getting any type of help or assistance whatsoever. That they're able-bodied, they're gaming the system, they're doing all these different things. The government has made it so that there are people that just work the system. We know that to be the case. I mean, we've seen it. Look, you don't believe me? Go watch a bunch of old episodes of Judge Judy, right? I mean, I'm not making this up. Okay, so I have a real hard, and I'm going to tell you, those people that are really hurting, that are really impoverished, they're going and they're finding resources and organizations, and churches are stepping up to fill that gap. Those won't be the people that are looting and stealing and robbing. It's going to be these people that are absolutely perfectly capable of sustaining themselves and are making the choice not to, that are going to raise holy hell and set cities on fire. It'll be those people. Okay. Man. Chris Powell's back, and I got to thank him for another $19.99 super chat. He says, a little fired up tonight. Last message got jumbled in auto text. The Northern Mexico independence movement is being fueled right now. New leftist president in Mexico. There have been 37 political assassinations in less than 1 year. Yeah. Look, I think one of the most underreported stories that's going on in the world of self-determination is the fact that Nuevo Leon in northern Mexico is well on the path of becoming independent. Now, remember, when we put out a statement, and I remember this because I shared the video with somebody the other day, but when we put out the statement that we would be helping and supporting organizations in northern Mexico that were working on independence, we got so much ridicule. I mean, you just cannot even imagine. What are they talking? No, that doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, boom, boom, boom. I mean, here these people are, right? This thing in Nuevo Leon. And there's some other organizations in some of the other northern states that are working on this very thing. But my point here is that they ridiculed us. They heaped ridicule on us, saying it didn't exist. And then when it became very evident that it did exist, they shut up. There were no apologies forthcoming from these armchair quarterbacks or these, hacks in the media, whatever. There were no apologies. None whatsoever. Not one of them sent me an email, picked up the phone. They just went on, licked their wounds because yet again, when it comes to us, they were wrong. They want to heap derision on us. And, it's not like we're over there picking fights. I'm not calling out, these media guys on here. We're not out there inciting, but they want to come take pot shots at us when we've been proven right time and time and time and time again. So thank you for the super chat, Chris. Oh, all right. Okay, and there we go. One more. Alex says, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, your views on EBT is the same way as my dad, 100%. Well, thank you very much. And your dad sounds like a lovely chap. So, okay. Here we go. This is from Lee. Lee says, can you explain how U.S./Texas negotiations might look after a positive tier outcome regarding intellectual and military properties and why this would be necessary? Yeah, it's, man, I hate that this one is, over time, but this is a more interesting topic. I think, Lee, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this. And I think what I will do is I will take it and get it queued up for an in-depth analysis that we'll publish on the Texian Partisan, because it is interesting. People have asked what some of those negotiation points would be. I know, excuse me, in the TEXIT blueprint seminar, that last section where I talk about securing TEXIT is I go through some of those things that will be discussed at the negotiating table. But honestly, that question could use a lot more depth than I'm going to be able to provide on here. So let me do that for you. And we'll get to that. Ricky Tick. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay. I'm trying to pull another one. Because I'm out of time, and I'm just trying to find like a really solid one that we haven't been asked a bunch. Okay, so I tell you what, I'm going to take this one, and this is going to have to be my last one for the night. But this is what Travis asks. He says, I used to be a member years ago out of Midland, and ashamedly, I got caught up in my life and its struggles. I'm interested in rejoining again and actively working as a volunteer. Well, that is going to be music to our organizational development folks' ears. You need to go to local.tnm.me and go get set up for that. But anyway, welcome home. Welcome back home. But this is what he said. I wanted, however, to hear what the TNM's position was on SB 2420. And I'll tell you, if you haven't been paying attention to this, I really could do a whole, like a podcast episode on this. But the way that they build it is they call it the App Store Accountability Act. And essentially it was passed under the auspices of protecting children from adult content online, right? So through the phone apps and all that sort of thing. Okay, that's what it was. It's an age verification situation. But what it deals with primarily is distribution of software apps, mobile apps. And one of the things that it requires is ID verification. Now, ostensibly, they said that they did it so that they could do age verification, but now it's mandatory, right? This is essentially what this piece of legislation did, was it made it mandatory. So you and I, to get apps for our phone, we're going to have to verify our IDs. We're going to have to essentially put our digital thumbprint on everything that we do, which is a recipe for the surveillance state. And we have a story that we're working on that's, it was brought to our attention through some emails. We've been doing some investigating on it. It's, I think, going to hit the Texian Partisan before we can ever say anything about it. But it deals with effectively cities and counties here in Texas building what is probably Orwell's nightmare from 1984 for the surveillance state. And I've got, I've seen some things that are just, I mean, when you see it all pieces, but when you see it all together, it's going to floor you. But when you think about what this particular piece of legislation does with, essentially requiring your digital fingerprint, your ID, they're asking you for more identity verification than they ask you for to vote, right? Um, but just to download apps, and then that app is now connected to you, 100% you, and therefore, your privacy. I mean, if you thought the big corps were encroaching on your privacy, wait till Big Gov gets their hands on it. I mean, this is bad. So we're going to be having a lot of conversation about digital privacy moving forward. We may even hold some webinars for you guys. If you're interested, let us know. But some things you can do to enhance your digital privacy. But it's it's dystopian, and it always comes under the auspices of needing to solve a problem. Look, say my God, won't someone think of the children? Right? It's always under that guise. And granted, there are some things that need to be done to protect children from predators in society. The first line of defense are parents that are paying attention, right? But big government nanny state thinks that maybe you're a child. Maybe they think that you're their child and that you need to be watched and that you can't be trusted to watch your own children, which kind of gets me to that one constitutional amendment that we did not talk about tonight. Probably need to talk about that at some point. Anyway, that's where I'm at on it. The TNM has not taken an official position specifically on that piece of legislation, but we have taken some very strong positions on digital privacy, big tech, and government surveillance. I mean, as far as these guys are concerned, to hell with the Fourth Amendment. I mean, it's not illegal search and seizure if you volunteer it up now, is it? That's how they think. So thank you for that, Travis. Glad to see you're in San Antonio now. Definitely reach out to organizational development. And guys, as much as I would love to tuck into some more of these, I am just flat out of time because that work doesn't stop. I have to go in there and get back to it. That being said, I want to thank you guys so much. And let me, I did this. Let me just go ahead. Look at the crawler on the bottom. A big thank you to our YouTube channel members, the names you see below. Very much appreciate your support of what we are doing here, not just in the TNM in general, but also here on our YouTube channel as well. And I already mentioned it a bunch, had a whole question about it tonight. But if you're not registered on TNM Social, head over there and do that now. Go to tnm.social. Yes, that's tnm.social. Those addresses exist, tnm.social. And as I said, get signed up over there. Be sure you download the mobile app. Also, look, if you are not a registered supporter yet, you need to do that, right? You got to go pledge your support. Head over to tnm.me/vote. That's tnm.me/vote. Also, more and more of you have been asking, and I'm just like, how do you not know this? But you want branded merch, right? You want like shirts and hats, and many of you now sweatshirts and hoodies because the weather's getting ready to turn cold. Well, you can get all your TEXIT gear right there at texianstore.com. All the net proceeds go directly to supporting the mission of the Texas Nationalist movement. So head over there and do that today. Additionally, you want to make a donation. We got the QR code up there in the corner. But look, if you don't want to do QR codes, don't. Just go to donate.tnm.me and make your contribution today. That is what helps us keep the fight alive, right? It takes money to do this stuff. Okay, additionally, you've heard me mention it tonight, Texian Partisan, the official news site of the Texas Nationalist Movement. Head over to texianpartisan.com. There's some big things happening over there right now. I mean, not like this second, but some things happening with the Texian Partisan, and you're going to want to be a part of that. Be sure you got an account over there, too, and go comment on the articles, right? I mean, there's some of those guys over there feeling like the Maytag repairman. And I mentioned this, texitnow.org. If I did not get your question tonight, head over to texitnow.org and see if it's there. most of them are. And if they're not, let us know, and we'll make sure that it is. Wow, that went by like that, just snap like that. All right, I got to get back to it. I want to thank you guys so very much for being here tonight. It's always a lovely thing when we can get together. But I want to say this before I finally wrap up. Um, if for those of you out there who don't understand that when you join the TNM, when you come in here and you get stuck in, we become a family, right? It's some people have said that it's a very weird situation sometimes, but when you get really stuck in, you get really close. And when so when one of us hurts, we all hurt, right? When one of us struggles, we all struggle together, because when one of us wins, we all win. And it's just kind of the way that we look at things. And so tonight, for those of you that even if you're maybe feel like you're on the outside looking in, I want to just invite you to be a part of us. But I've got some family business I need to take care of, and that is I need each and every one of you to pray for our dear friend Debbie Chapa. You guys know Manny and Debbie are the dynamic duo, and Debbie has had a health issue. And I'm not going to air out your business on here, Debbie, but suffice it to say that here in the Miller household, we're praying for you, and I'm asking everyone else in the TNM to do so as well. Just pray for Debbie. And of course, a very similar situation with Lynn Belk up there in Cherokee County. And Lynn, I want you to know that our prayers are with you as well. And I encourage everyone in the TNM to intercede and help in any way that they can to pray for you. And then, of course, our good friend, longtime family member friend, Regina Ross, is going to have some surgery. And she sure could use your prayers as well. I know we'll be praying for Reg because it's Reg, and that's what we do for each other, right? So that being said, folks, I want to thank you all for being with us tonight, and looking forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, you know what this means, right? It means that I'm going to leave you with the words that I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.